And today's episode 8, a little lighter on the technical parts, I think, but I thought there were still a few pretty good spots for us to bring up. The first one I wanted to get into was Rebecca versus Cooper. So we see at that episode that Rebecca and Nathan come in to talk to Ariana about the settlement, and they're playing this kind of good cop, bad cop, or good lawyer, bad lawyer uh, scenario. And my experience, at least with any of the attorneys in oil and gas I've been around, they've been more in the line with Nathan. Very kind people. But I imagine there maybe are a couple Rebeccas out there. Have you ever ran into any just shark attorneys working in oil and gas?
Not in my 18 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
she's,
Brent.
she's pretty extra sharky, you know.
Yeah.
You run into the snaky characters, right? A lot of folks, yeah, and I think a lot of times it's in the eye of the receiving end, or are you across the table from that person? Well, they're probably a snaky shark to you. But if they're representing you and they're on your side, they're everything you want them to be.
Yeah.
So you see all kinds. I think obviously it's dramatized, but oftentimes in negotiations, whether it's obviously in the context of a settlement for a death, obviously that's one thing. But in the land profession, you're going to have the negotiations, and you're going to have a good cop, bad cop. Robert and I are field landmen. A lot of what we do is landowner negotiations, and oftentimes you'll have buyers on a team or an attorney on a project that you're maybe is representing a mineral owner, and they're going to posture. A lot of it's posture, and a lot of it's a certain amount of, you're going to tell the person across the table, your side of the negotiation. Hey, this is why you need to do this. This is important. You're leaving a lot of money on the table, all those things. And then usually when it boils down to it, somebody slides in on the back end and plays the good cop and kind of helps smooth things over. And ultimately you get something done and don't end up in court. But
I agree with that completely, Brent. I definitely don't think I've ever seen an attorney say, what'd she say? I'll make up my own truth.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's I think most of the attorneys in our industry are pretty straight.
Yeah. Like I said, most of the attorneys I've met in oil and gas are real good people. And so don't want that misconception getting too far out there. I mean, she's a little Hollywood dramatized there. But
it shows the difference in an in-house counsel, right? A company attorney and a litigator, right? A litigator presents a believable truth, whether it's the truth or not. That's their job, right? They're there to present the case for whatever side they're representing. Company person they've got to go to work with people. They're working across the table with a counterpart, on another E&P next month on the next deal. So you can't be too sharky. A litigator comes in, they're singular focus.
Yeah.
The best
They're
interest
creating
of
a
my
narrative
client.
and controlling that narrative.
Yeah. So, fortunately, I hadn't been involved in too much litigation. I think, but I was cited in one annual meeting seminar for a lawsuit that we were involved in years and years ago. But on our side of the business, Robert can probably add there, we don't get involved in litigation too much. So,
No. Our buddies are the title attorneys.
yeah. And
Exactly.
they're all great.
Yeah.
Well, in that scene, this is something that I'm not sure of it, but so I wanted to bring it up. When they're talking about that NDA that they want Ariana to sign, and they say, you can't sue us for anything in the future, no matter if whatever happens, so on and so forth. Is that common for a settlement agreement to have that kind of verbiage in there?
I can't really speak to that. Most of the NDAs that I've signed and probably that Brent signed are more just around confidentiality of our client's information. So I don't think I've ever even actually seen a settlement NDA.
But I mean, there's a lesson in that, right? Anybody can put anything on paper, and if you sign it, you're bound to it.
Yeah.
And so the lesson there for the land community, if we're going to try to relate this to what we do as landmen, is you read the document. Anything that's in front of you, you read the document. Whether you're examining title or you're reviewing a a JOA from a counterpart, or you're, reading a lease, right? Read the document. We see all kinds of stuff slip into granting language of royalty deeds, right? It's the devil's in the details, and it could very well be put there. And if you put it in the document and you sign it, then it's upon someone else it's upon you to prove later on, if it's a problem, that it wasn't legal, and that's an uphill battle. When you acknowledge something. So there's probably a little lesson in that, whether it's viable or not. It's a good lesson.
That in and of itself makes you think twice about clicking "I agree to these terms and conditions" whenever you download an app from the App Store.
Yeah.
All the
No
time.
one reads those.
You
better make sure you understand it.
Yeah, and so another point to that scene, Cooper comes in, he's like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't do this and that and the other," and I mean, it's a great scene for him. But same time, I kept thinking, any lawyer, especially one of Rebecca's caliber, would probably say, "You need to recuse yourself because this is a huge conflict of interest right here." I can't imagine that they would just let him sit there and dictate the terms of the settlement whenever he was part of the accident that happened.
Yeah, absolutely not. I agree with you, Chad. I mean, it's nothing's really fast when it comes to this business and that kind of stuff. Wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen. Well, you think it wouldn't happen, but until I mentioned a case that I was named personally in Dudley Land. We were negotiating a deal on behalf of a client. Got far down the line. We sent an offer letter that they accepted, and then our client backed out of the deal. This was 2008-9. We were talking about $20 million lease, right, in the Haynesville. Well, you really don't. When you're involved in the day in and day out of a deal or whatever it may be. In this case, obviously, it was a settlement for a death. That's obviously one thing, but as it relates to Landman, until you've been involved in something and had to go through a deposition and go through an actual court case and sit down and talk to litigators and work through that process, you really don't know, man, I shouldn't say that. And that kind of comes with experience. I always tell a lot of our landmen and people that we work with, when you're involved in something, what you say and what you do can always come back, right? So, but until you're involved in that, you don't really know, and you're just responding to what's in front of you, trying to do what you think is right. You're trying to get the lease bought. You're trying to get the deal done. And oftentimes until, it hits the fan, you don't know that maybe you did something right or you didn't do something right. And, the character in the show is 22-year-old kid. He's damn near got blew up. So all his buddies died. He's in the middle of a early love triangle. Just got beat up, damn near got shot and stabbed in the guts. He's probably passionate.
Gonna start an oil company,
Yeah, about to be rich, start an oil company.
Let's start an
I
oil
ain't gonna
company.
blow nobody up.
He's had a rough start.
He's had a rough go. Hell, man.
Rough
I
start.
thought I had it bad. So, you really don't know. He'll probably look back at that and say it was a mistake, but he's in love, sounds like.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'd say anything for some good Mexican food, like some good homemade. I'm down.